Greetings to everyone out there in the No DQ galaxy. Welcome to the No DQ live recap of AEW Dynamite. I will also be discussing the results from WWE NXT, including the big shocking ending which concluded this week's NXT. I will be talking about that. If you are watching live, please do me a favor and share this video link on social media. Tell a friend. Word of mouth really goes a long way, and I very much appreciate it. Anyways, let's go ahead and discuss the shows. Very eventful evening. October 23rd, 2019. The Wednesday Night War continues to heat up. AEW started right with a match. No video opening, no pyro, nothing. We just had the first match of the semifinals of the tag team title tournament. We had Private Party versus the Lucha Brothers. Crowd started an immediate AEW chant right off the bat. Meanwhile, on NXT, we had Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair. They had their commercial break as the AEW match was going on. I believe the entire AEW match went without a commercial break. The match was insane. If you did not see it, it was a pay-per-view quality match. It's exactly what you would want to see out of these guys. They basically just did tons of high-flying moves, total non-stop action from start to finish. Jim Ross was really good on commentary, bringing up how Private Party is inexperienced. Mentioned that they could have perhaps won the match, but they failed to hook the leg. Little things like that is why I really like JR. And even JR, past his prime, is still fantastic at what he does. Private Party actually looked really strong in this match. They were very close to winning. However, they hit their double team finisher, the Gin and Juice, on Rey Fenix, who was not the legal man in the match. But by the time they realized it, the brothers came back. They hit their package pile driver and stomp combination to pick up the victory. And over on NXT, we had Io Shirai trying to interfere in the women's match. And then Candice LeRae came out and they got into it. Rhea Ripley ended up picking the victory up over on NXT. Tony H with the $2 super chat says, AEW greater than NXT so far overall, in my opinion. Well, I will say this week's AEW show, see, I'm trying to talk about both of them. I focused on AEW and I did see some of NXT, but AEW was hot this week. I thought it was a really fun show to watch, and AEW definitely has some momentum going here. There are a few things, as I've mentioned in previous weeks, which I will talk about here shortly, where I feel that there is room for improvement, and there's perhaps another wrestling show out there that AEW could get a few pointers from. So stay tuned for that. On AEW, we had the video package for Wardlow, who's one of the upcoming superstars to debut on Dynamite. We had a recap of the injury angle from last week where Christopher Daniels was taken out by the Lucha Brothers. They said he'll be out of action for 6 to 8 weeks. We had a Dark Order video package to set up SCU versus Dark Order in the other semifinal match. Now, here's where I would have done this a little bit differently. I don't know if I would have followed up one tag team match with another tag team match, especially when that first match was so hot that there's no way this match could follow it up. And it was a good match, but there was a bit of a distraction here. We had Chris Jericho in the inner circle walking around in the crowd, and they had tickets. Apparently, they were not on this show this week, so because of that, they bought tickets, which to me is weird. Chris Jericho's the world champion. Wouldn't he be able to show up whenever? I thought this was a little silly, but, nitpicking on my part. Jericho in the inner circle, they went into the luxury box. They had some popcorn. They had a little bit of the bubbly. And meanwhile, on NXT, we had Pete Dunne arriving with Tyler Bate. Tyler Bate was in the crowd later on. There was a video package of Tommaso Ciampa's recovery from his injury. And then we had Matt Riddle versus Cameron Grimes as the AEW tag team match was going on. The Dark Order actually came close to picking up the win. However, the referee was distracted and there was a delay in counting the pinfall. SCU came back from that. They picked up the victory. Next week, it will be SCU versus the Lucha Brothers in the final match of the AEW Tag Team Tournament to crown the first champions. And I think the right team definitely won here. I'm just not feeling the Dark Order up to this point. I would say they're among the weaker teams in AEW right now. So yeah, good final for next week. I'm looking forward to it. We had a recap of Joey Janela versus Jon Moxley from Fyter Fest, and then the footage was shown of Joey Janela versus Kenny Omega, which was a crazy match on AEW Dark. And I like that they showed the video footage from Fyter Fest, showing that Joey Janela has some talent and has been holding his own with some of the best in AEW. We had a rematch from the AEW Dark event. We had Kenny Omega coming out for his match with Janela. And during his entrance, you had the reaction from Chris Jericho. He was not impressed. Meanwhile, on NXT, Cameron Grimes had several near falls on Matt Riddle, but in the end, Matt Riddle picked up the victory. And during the match, it should be noted that Riddle did a jackhammer, a little bit of a reference, I suppose, to one Bill Goldberg. And then after the match, we had an angle to set up a future match between Grimes and Tyler Bate. Tyler Bate, as I mentioned earlier, was at ringside. Grimes got in his face and shoved him, and then Bate punched him out. So I'm guessing we'll see a match between them at some point. Back on AEW, we had Kenny Omega winning with the V-trigger, followed by the One-Winged Angel. And over on NXT, we had the start of the six-man match. We had Breezango along with Isaiah Swerve Scott against the Forgotten Sons. So you had Kenny Omega on AEW and you had Breezango on NXT at the same time. If people were going back and forth, I think we know what they would be watching. It'll be interesting to see what the numbers are this week. I mean, both shows have some serious sports competition. The World Series, of course, is going on. So the numbers might not be too good, but both shows brought it as they usually do. On AEW, I did want to note that they had a little video package hyping up the future events and tickets for the events. The Pittsburgh crowd looked pretty good tonight for AEW. Definitely not a sellout. And maybe they should do a better job with their camera angles, because when they were showing Jericho looking out at the ring, like you could see the hard camera side, and there were a lot of empty seats on that side. Lower level, I want to say about half of the upper deck was empty. So definitely not a sellout, but still a respectable crowd for AEW. Considering that they still are a young promotion here. You know, they've only been doing this, since the beginning of the year, and they just got the AEW on TNT show started about a month ago. So, it's early, so people saying, oh, look at the attendance, AEW still drew a good 7,000-8,000 people here, and Raw's not doing a whole lot better right now. Next up, we had a promo. We had Cody come out. He was wearing his suit. The six-man match was still going on NXT. Crowd was booing Jericho when he was mentioned as champion by Tony Schiavone. Schiavone was trying to ask Cody about Cody's big announcement. However, Cody could not get that announcement out since he was interrupted by the Inner Circle. The Inner Circle had these horns that they kept blowing off while Cody was trying to talk. And then Cody got on the mic and said, "This isn't like the other wrestling company that we came from. This isn't an invisible wall. If you want to fight, we can fight right here, right now." Jericho responded by calling Cody a coward, calling him a bitch. Cody started to walk up there, and then Jericho's telling him, "What are you doing here? It's 4 against 1. You're going to get destroyed." Jericho told him to get the hell out of here before I kick your ass. And that's when Cody's brother Dustin came out with his Green Day Brain Stew knockoff music. Funny how in the spirit of WCW, WCW used to have like the knockoff 90s theme songs, like DDP had Nirvana and Jericho had Pearl Jam. So now you got Dustin Rhodes with his Green Day Brain Stew knockoff song. Jericho's like, "Okay, you got 4-2 now." And that's when MJF came out, and Jericho's like, "Am I supposed to be scared of a guy with a scarf?" Which was a really funny line from Jericho. And then we had, it's me, it's DDP. That's right, Diamond Dallas Page coming out to even the odds. As this was going on NXT, you had the good guys pick up the victory in the 6-man tag team match. Breezango along with Swerve. But back on AEW, which was, to me, definitely the more interesting thing going on at this point, you had the 4 guys go up there to confront the Inner Circle. The Inner Circle locked themselves into this room, and there was a glass window on the door, and Cody proceeded to punch the window. There's this huge brawl. They were fighting in the concession stands. Jericho got his face smashed into some dipping dots, and eventually security came and broke everything up. Crowd was chanting AEW again. Cody and the other guys ended up being escorted out of the building. Jericho was irate, screaming, "I've got tickets." And it was pure pandemonium. I thought that this was a great segment, and I loved it. I thought this was maybe the best thing on the show, even better than the opening tag team match. And I want to see more of this on AEW. As great as the wrestling is, I want to see more angles, more storylines, and non-wrestling stuff. I know it's a wrestling show, but you know it is sports entertainment after all. And I thought this was a really good segment. So I'll give it the Orange Cassidy thumbs up, although really it was like a full thumbs up. Power Packers 90 with a $2 super chat says, "DDP on TNT feels so right. Hashtag WCW Mark for life." I want to see more surprise appearances too. I loved seeing DDP on this show. I want to see more legends coming back. I want to tune in and not know what to expect. So DDP coming out, I want to see more stuff like that. I know DDP's been making appearances for AEW, but I liked it. It's easy. It's an easy pop, and it creates buzz. It gets people talking. You never know who's going to show up on an AEW program. So I think that they should do more of this. Any free agent legend that's out there that's available, let them come out for a one-off appearance. Let them put over some of the younger talent. I want to see some more variety. I want to see like a Joey Janela versus a star from the past who we haven't seen in a long time. You know, we saw Ken Shamrock in Impact Wrestling. Let's see more stuff like that in AEW. Tony H with a $2 super chat says, "But I bought a ticket." I know, that was a great line. Jericho, as always, was fantastic on this show. We had the Young Bucks versus the Best Friends, which to me was not really necessary. Did we really need 3 tag team matches on one show? In my opinion, this should have been on AEW Dark. The Young Bucks don't have to be on every single show, and you don't need 3 tag matches on one show. I get it. You want to put an emphasis on the tag team division, but 3 in one show, especially when they're all spot fests, it's a bit overkill in my opinion. So again, a little bit of criticism here, but I want to see some more variety. We did have a little bit of comedy in this match with Orange Cassidy, doing his little Orange Cassidy-like super kicks. And then the Bucks gave him a real super kick. Crowd was booing the Young Bucks for this. I was confused here. Like, I thought the Young Bucks were faces, now they're heels, but I don't know. I'm still confused about who are the heels and who are the faces sometimes. And I thought the thing that confuses me is the Bucks were booed here, but then they do all their stuff, they get cheered, and they're facing Santana and Ortiz at Full Gear, and they're heels. So that would make the Bucks faces. So I guess it just depends on the match, who's the baby face and who's the heel. I mean, I guess you could argue the Best Friends were heels because they had Orange Cassidy out there as their manager, and he's interfering and doing his dive from the top rope to the outside with his hands in his pocket when the referee's not looking. So that's a heel tactic, I guess. I don't know. It's all confusing to me. But, I mean, the match was entertaining. Still, I would have rather had seen it on AEW Dark. And over on NXT, we had a cruiserweight match. We had Jack Gallagher versus Angel Garza with Lio Rush, the new champion, on commentary. Garza picked up the victory, and then there was a little bit of a stare down between Lio and Garza. Back on AEW, the Young Bucks also mocked the Best Friends, which would be a heelish thing to do, I suppose. Maybe not. The thing that was silly about this is they did the hug, and then the camera does that zooming out, which just makes the whole thing seem, fake. Oh, wrestling's fake, But obviously, you got Orange Cassidy here doing his stuff, so I guess we're just supposed to play along with it and try to suspend disbelief as much as we can. Power Packers 90 with a $2 super chat says, no heels or faces, it's real life, nobody's perfect. I still have trouble buying into that in wrestling, but I mean, the crowds are reacting to it, so there you go. But I could see casual viewers just being confused by it, and if they're confused, they're probably not going to get emotionally invested. So I think for casual viewers, you need to make it more clearly defined who you should be cheering for and who you should be booing for. Obviously, the hardcore fans, they do whatever they want, They'll cheer, boo, whatever. They'll go back and forth. They just want to see high spot after high spot. So you give them that, then they really don't care. After the match, Bucks accepted the match for Full Gear, which we all knew was going to happen anyways. I would have liked to have seen more of a promo. I mean, it was just Nick Jackson saying we accept, and that was that. It was literally one sentence. Super Namic says Wrestling Evolves, Aaron. Maybe it confuses you, but a newer viewer may not and like that. Well, if AEW and NXT were doing 3-4 million viewers, then I would say, yeah, the wrestling business has passed me by. But, I mean, the numbers are good, but they could be better. And wrestling isn't exactly popular outside of the bubble. So I do think that what I say holds some weight. I don't think I'm completely senile and out of touch just yet. But, yes, wrestling does evolve. It doesn't stay the same. It does change over time. So, that there's people have different tastes, and I still think, even if movies evolve and television evolves, you still got to be able to suspend disbelief, and you need character development. And I think that will always be something that you need in wrestling. Just my take on it. But, some people just like the acrobatics. As Virtue said, it's like one of those Las Vegas carnival shows where everybody's jumping around, and some people like that. They just want to see the flips. We had a Britt Baker video package. And funny enough, you had Adam Cole make a little cameo on AEW by way of a photograph that they showed during the Britt Baker video package. On NXT, we had a tag team match, Tegan Nox and Dakota Kai against Shayna Baszler's girls, Duke and Shafir. Nox and Kai picked up the victory, and next week they will face the Kabuki Warriors for the WWE Women's Tag Team titles. So That's pretty cool. I like that. That we're actually getting the women's tag team titles defended on all three brands. So, Orange Cassidy, thumbs up. There you go. And Asuka and what's her name? Wow, I'm forgetting her name now. Maybe I am getting old, guys. Maybe I'm just getting old and senile here. But the Kabuki Warriors did a promo on the video screen. Maybe it's just that there's two shows here to recap, and there's just so many people that I end up blanking out on names here. Kyrie Sane, thank you for that, Bradley. They cut a little promo on the video screen after the match. Next up, we had Jamie Halter versus Britt Baker. Britt Baker was in her hometown of Pittsburgh, so of course she got a huge reaction. She came out with the Pittsburgh Steelers mascot for that extra pop, got her pyro. She picked up the victory with the lockjaw submission. Britt Baker victorious. And meanwhile, on NXT, we had the start of the triple threat main event. Roderick Strong defending the NXT North American Championship against Keith Lee and Dominic D. Then on AEW, we had Halter being interviewed backstage, but before she could even do a sentence yet, we had Brandy Rhodes attack her from behind. And this was literally like a 15-second segment. Again, I would have liked an actual interview. I know this sounds weird that I want more non-wrestling on a wrestling show, but I'd like some more promos. Like, where are the interviews with these guys and have them talk? I want to bring this up now. So I've been watching NWA Power, which is the 1-hour NWA show on YouTube, and I really like what they're doing with the promos. The show, like I said last week, it's for acquired tastes. It's a throwback nostalgia show for old school NWA fans. But I love the interviews on NWA Power. Like I love the promos that Eli Drake has been doing. The promo he had with Tim Storm, setting up their tag team match. I liked the Aaron Stevens promo, actually both of them that he's done. And I think that those promos are helping develop the characters. And man, I'm blanking out on this guy's name. He's teaming up with Homicide. Eddie Kingston, I think. He cut a really good promo on NWA Power. And there were like 4 or 5 promos, interview segments during the show. Why can't AEW do some of that? Like, I love it. I love what NWA Power, the matches are okay. But if you took what NWA Power is doing with the interviews, and then you had AEW wrestling with a little bit of the high spots cut down, I think you'd have a perfect show. So yeah, I'm definitely enjoying NWA Power. You know, people have been asking me to talk more about that. I definitely recommend giving it a shot. It might not be your cup of tea, but I like what they're doing with the characters and the promos and whatnot. OG85 with a $2 super chat says, Aaron, bring back the pre-taped no DQ&A. Never say never. Maybe I will do something special for you guys fairly soon. The guy 261 says, because half the guys can't cut a promo that matters. Ouch. Savage line of the night, perhaps. I think he's, of course, talking about the AEW show. So we had the main event matches, and I have to say, this was the one time I had both shows going on at the same time, but my focus was on AEW. I had the volume turned down on NXT, but this is the first time I'm looking at both screens at the same time, and I'm more intrigued by NXT. Like, this triple threat match looked amazing, and I definitely want to go back and watch it. The Bastard versus Jon Moxley, they were talking about the TV time remaining, and they kind of gave away what they were going to do here. You know, you had Justin Roberts saying 5 minutes left, 4 minutes left, 3 minutes left. I'm like, they're just going to do the draw, you know. They booked this match, but one guy's not going to go over the other guy. They're just going to do a draw. And sure enough, that's what it was. So I really wasn't that invested in the match because I was feeling like it was going to be a draw, and that's exactly what it was. And feels kind of flat to me personally. Meanwhile, on NXT, like, those three guys were just tearing it up. And Keith Lee is amazing. The guy's doing dives over the top, moving like a cruiserweight. And Dominic's got a great look, too. Those guys just have amazing chemistry, and Roderick Strong is awesome, too. So, yeah, I was more intrigued by what was going on for NXT at this point. And this is with Jon Moxley, Dean Ambrose in the AEW main event. So, yeah, I don't know if that means anything to anybody out there or if anybody else felt the same way. But if I was a casual viewer looking at both shows at this point, the NXT stuff looked more appealing to me personally. So anyways, to conclude the AEW show, you had the Bastard miss the Black Arrow, and then Moxley hit the paradigm shift with like 10 seconds to go. He was taking his time going for the cover. So, of course, Pac kicked out with like 3 seconds remaining. It was announced as a draw. Moxley took out the referee and was like, time limit my ass. And then the show went off the air. So, a little bit of a flat ending in my opinion. But, you got to protect both guys. So I could see the defense in doing this. But I would have rather this not close the show. Like, do something else other than this. I would have liked to have seen the Brawl close the show, quite frankly. I would have been more intrigued by the Wild Brawl to wrap up the show. So everybody's like, oh my God, that was such an awesome ending, instead of, it was a draw, and then that's how it goes off the air. So I think AEW can change the way that they do the order of things, like doing the 2 tag matches in a row, ending the show with a draw. Little things here and there, more promos. The first match was amazing. The first match, pay-per-view quality match. And the show, again, overall from start to finish, very entertaining. So my letter grade for AEW is an A-. Maybe the best AEW Dynamite to date. I mean, they've all been really solid. And I thought this one, the strength of the first match alone, I mean, that should have been on a pay-per-view. Like, those guys really went all out in that match. And again, I don't think it was the perfect show. If they did some more promos and maybe had the order of things a little bit different, maybe I would have gone with an A or even an A+. But I'm saving an A+ for like a blowaway show that I think is going to increase viewership and is going to move the company in a new direction of success. I did not see that show this week. So it gets an A- for me. Virtue gives it a B. Mike B with a B+. Power Packers 90 with an A. Kev Dog with an A-. The guy 261 says B is fair. J-Spin 401 says NXT gets an A- and AEW a B-. Mr. Heavy Metal Hero Dude gives an A for AEW. Radical Velocity gives an A. And 90s Nostalgia gives it a B+. Now let's go back real quick to the end of the NXT match. So, like I said, Keith Lee's doing all these crazy things. He does this top rope sit-down powerbomb to Dominic, and then all of a sudden, Roderick Strong comes in and nails Keith Lee, pins him to retain the North American title. Undisputed Era come out. They start beating down Keith Lee, and that's when Tommaso Ciampa's music hits. Ciampa comes out, and then we have Ciampa in the ring with Undisputed Era. But then we have another person come out. We have Johnny Gargano come out. DIY reunited. Crowd is chanting DIY. And then we have Finn Balor making his big return to NXT. Balor gets in the ring. And I'm thinking to myself, well, looks like they're setting up the War Games for this year. Undisputed Era versus Ciampa, Gargano, Finn Balor, and somebody else. But then, swerve! Finn Balor attacks Johnny Gargano, and it's an all-out assault on Gargano and Ciampa. Finn Balor going heel. Crazy stuff here. Balor drop kicks Gargano through the barricade into the NXT stars that were sitting at ringside. There was one fan that yelled, "Go to hell," which I thought was great. But then the fans had to ruin it. The fans, the Full Sail fans. So Balor does this great heel turn. He hits this DDT on the steel steps to Gargano, and the crowd starts chanting yes. That just took me out of the moment. This was a great heel turn, and you start chanting yes. Why do you do that? Why can't you just play along? I guess the wrestling business has passed me by, but the fans just annoyed the hell out of me when they started chanting yes, you know. Balor's a heel turn. Boo him. Boo the guy. For crying out loud. The Game is on 100 with a $5 super chat. So the Game is on 100 is the brand new No DQ super chat champion. And he says, Balor's turn was unexpected. I really like the turn. I give NXT an A due to the Balor turn. I thought the Balor turn was great. And to me, that might have been the highlight of the evening. And that's really saying something because I really liked the AEW brawl with Jericho and Cody and all them. And I also liked the opening match on AEW. But the Balor heel turn was definitely a nice surprise and something that NXT really needed. Like, I feel that NXT has been just coasting along and they're not trying to generate buzz. This was the first thing in a while that just felt like something special. You know, Balor turning heel here and getting people something to talk about other than just the great wrestling. So, yeah, and I think it was definitely needed. You know, the smiling Finn Balor, it's just like, you know, it's played out. So, thumbs up on the heel turn, and that was a really nice ending to the show. But, yeah, WWE needs to get out of Full Sail. Anyways, that's all I got for this week. I did enjoy everything that I saw for the most part. AEW is always a nice breath of fresh air to watch, and AEW Dark has also been fun to watch, so check that out. NWA Power is a nice alternative, and gotta say, I feel more excited about Wednesday nights than I do Raw at this point, and even SmackDown. Like, Wednesday night seems to be the time that I'm hyped up and I'm invested in what I'm watching. Raw just feels like a chore, and even though SmackDown's 2 hours, lately it's felt like a chore as well. So there you go. Jericho, I agree, has got to be the superstar of the night, as Virtue said. We should do this. Every live stream I should do the superstar of the night for both shows, and also on Raw and SmackDown. Got to go with Jericho this week. By the way, make sure you guys vote in the Hall of Fame. Hint, hint, Jericho might be winning that, but we'll have to wait and see. Keep voting, NoDQ.com. Mike D with a $5 super chat. So Mike D is the brand new No DQ Super Chat Championship, and not the championship. Wow, I sound like Scott Steiner now. Well, you know what, Mike D, via the Scott Steiner screwdriver, you're the new champion, and your question is, thoughts on CM Punk saying he's open to a wrestling return? I'll believe it when I see it. I know he said in the interview he wants a big bag of money, and all I can say is WWE is running with Saudi Arabia. They got their deal for the next, 8 years that they have left. So that's a lot of bags of money that will be going out. And WWE is eventually going to run out of legends that are not CM Punk. And yeah, I would not be shocked if one of these days CM Punk comes back for a crown jewel event to collect on a big bag of money. And I don't care how stingy you are or how much money you save. That sweet Saudi money, that's a lot of dough. That's a lot of hamburgers. So I think anything's possible when it comes to CM Punk, as long as that Saudi Arabia deal is in place. So thank you very much for that super chat, Mike D. Again, if you guys enjoyed today's video, please subscribe, tell a friend, spread the word. Any word of mouth, it goes a long way. And stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest. See you guys soon for the No DQ review. And then Friday night for the SmackDown live recap video. And then sometime this weekend, we should have Crown Jewel predictions up. Stay tuned to all that. Subscribe, youtube.com/AaronRift, no DQ. Turn on that notification bell to get updates. And I will see you guys next time.